Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Sunday and that means that I am prepping for the week. So I am not really doing as much this week because we have a fairly busy schedule. We are starting back to school this week. We've been off for a while. I'm finally feeling much better, so I'm able to be up doing stuff now. So because of that, it's time to start back to school, which is great, but it's always, kind of a rush and a big thing to get going on. That's okay. We love doing it. But because of that, I am going extremely simple on it this week. So I am going to grab my Instant Pot and I am going to get some beef and bean burrito filling going in that. I'm going to make some tortillas, and then we have I'm going to make some tortillas to make burritos out of, and then I have some yogurt going for breakfasts. So that's what we are working on today. So stay tuned if you guys are interested to see kind of how I prep for our week on a Sunday evening. Okay, so I'm starting with my yogurt. The first thing that I am going to do is pour in around a half a gallon of whole milk. And then I am going to turn it on low and set a timer for 2 hours and 45 minutes and leave it just like this for right now. So one of the things that I have also started doing in the evening is feeding my sourdough starter. I have found if I feed it anywhere from 6 to 12 hours before, maybe 4 to 12 hours before I am ready to use it, I get the best bread. So my new sourdough schedule has been feeding it in the evening. It sits out on my countertop, and then in the morning I get up and will prepare the loaf, do all my stretch and folds, let it sit out on my counter all day. As the temperature is going down, I'm finding that it needs a longer bulk ferment time. So it will stay on my counter pretty much all day, and then around dinner time I will cover it, put it in the bag, and put it in the refrigerator for the overnight cold ferment. So that's another thing that I'm going to do. The way I kind of do my sourdough starter, I know that some people have a jar that they just keep it in all the time, but what I have found on mine is that they kind of start getting this the longer one jar is used. I don't know. I have tried lots of different things to keep this clean and from not happening. So I just have a couple of jars that I kind of go back and forth. So there's the hooch stuff on top of this. I'll pour that out and then pour the rest of this into another wide mouth jar that I can just cover with a piece of cloth and then put the same ring on top of that. So we'll just switch these out. I do that usually maybe once every couple of weeks, just when I see that it starts to get yuck like that, because I do not want that, this part, to mold at all, or it can mess up your whole starters. So while my beef is sauteing on the saute function in my Instant Pot, I am going to work on my beans. Now, I know you can soak them. I've had so many people tell me yes, soak them, no, don't soak them, yes, add salt, don't add salt. So I'm just going to show you what works well for me. If this is not something that works well for you, that is absolutely okay. I would totally invite you to comment down below and tell me how you guys make beans, because I think that maybe it's just preference how it works for your family, and I think it's great to just have all of the options available. So I'm starting with a 1 pound bag of pinto beans, one of the cheapest things that you can get in a grocery store. But I always want to make sure that I check them, so I always look through the bag very thoroughly. I pull out any pieces that are kind of broken, and then sometimes, believe it or not, you can even get rocks in here. So I like to make sure and go through it, and then I will rinse my beans off before I add them to my Instant Pot. So I'm going to go through and clean out the beans, and then hopefully when I am finished with that, the beef will be sauteed. Okay, so I finished going through my bag of beans. I just wanted to show you guys, like, there are rocks, little rocks in here, and I like to take any of these, like any beans that like just kind of look shriveled or funny or have holes in them or are broken apart. There's also like pieces of grass and stuff in here, so that's why I always go through beans. It's not just pinto beans, any beans that I purchase from anywhere. This is true from Walmart or Azure Standard or anything in between. I always go through my beans and clean them out and make sure that we're not getting any of this yucky stuff in our food. I have my meat all cooked up. Now, if this wasn't frozen, I would say that it doesn't have to be completely cooked. You just want it to be browned because this is also getting cooked in the Instant Pot, so it's totally fine if it's like not completely cooked through. But you want it to be in pretty small pieces, and mine was all frozen into one block. So I had to cook mine all the way through. So I have it cooked all the way through, and if you can see the bottom of that pot, there's all that like brown cooked on stuff. That is good, that is flavor, and we want that. So that is actually part of what is going to help flavor the burrito filling. So I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to add 5 cups of water and my pound of pinto beans and some spices. If I had soaked these beans, I would only add 4 cups of water, but because they're completely dry, I am going to add 5. So I'm going to add my beans in there. Now again, we're going to get a little controversial. I'm going to put salt in this. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon probably each of these of garlic powder, about a teaspoon of chili powder, about a teaspoon of cumin. And this is just how we like this to be seasoned. This is a time that you can get creative. This is what we use. And then I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon of black pepper, or if you like it really spicy, you can add in red pepper flakes, because I am making this for my whole family, and about a teaspoon of salt. Because I'm making this for my whole family, I'm not going to do that. Each individual kid can just add extra spice to their burritos if they want. So I am going to put my lid on, set my pressure cooker for 30 minutes, and let this go. In the meantime, I will make our tortillas. The dry ingredients for this are going to be 6 cups of just all-purpose flour. Unbleached all-purpose is best. I have made these with einkorn. I've made them with kamut. They pretty much all work the same. So I have my 6 cups of just all-purpose flour. And then to that, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. If you want to add some kind of extra flavoring, now would be the time to add that. Like, you could do garlic powder. If you're making a sweeter tortilla, you could add some cinnamon, like if you were going to just dip it in honey. And then 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Get it all over me. And then I like to go in with my hands at this point, because sometimes the baking powder can like have clumps in it. So I like to just go in wherever that baking powder was and just stir everything all together. And I'm going to use my hand to just kind of make a well. So I have my butter all melted, it's all nice and foamy. And I have 2 cups of warm water. So I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going to pour my water in, and then immediately pour my butter in. And then I'm going And then just with a wooden spoon, I am going to give this a good stir until I don't feel like I can stir it anymore with a wooden spoon. And then I'll jump in with my hands. If you don't want to use melted butter, you can use any kind of really oil, preferably something that is going to be kind of flavorless. You don't want like a really strong tasting oil like olive oil. Probably, I mean, you could do it, but it's going to alter the flavor. I like the flavor of butter in here, so that's why I use the butter. But if you don't want the flavor of that in there, you can always use a flavorless oil. Avocado oil would work. I don't really suggest vegetable or canola oil because those are just really, really terrible for you. But you can use those as well. And it's just the same measurement. It's going to be 2/3 of a cup for that also. Pretty much have all of that flour worked in. So the next thing that I am going to do is cover this and let this set for at least 15 to 20 minutes. So we have been mixing and kneading and adding all of the things into that flour. So we need that gluten to rest. Otherwise, if I try to roll this out, it's just gonna like spring right back up. It's gonna be really, really difficult to roll out. So I am going to cover this and let this set for probably about half an hour. I have my tortilla dough that has been resting. Now this is not going to rise. It does not have yeast in it, so it's gonna look exactly the same, but that's okay. You want it to look the same. You just want the gluten to have had a chance to rest. So I'm going to take this out, and from here you can decide how many tortillas you want to make. I think I'm probably going to end up getting 12 out of this. If you want to make them really big, obviously you would get less tortillas out of a batch. You would just make more dough. But the dough is super simple to make, so you know, make big ones if you want. But I am probably going to go for about 12. So I'm going to separate this out, form them into dough balls, and start rolling them out. I have my skillet, my griddle, turned on about medium low, and I want that to be nice and preheated before I actually put any tortillas on. So while that's preheating, I'm going to go ahead and roll out as many tortillas as I can fit on my countertop right now. So I thought I'd give you a quick lesson in how to roll out a good tortilla. So the first thing that you kind of want to note is if you want to make a circle, then you want to start with a circle. So this is just what I cut off of the dough, but this is what I formed just into a round. I just kind of pull it over like that and then pinch it off, tuck it in the bottom and pinch it off with my fingers, and I have a circle. So that's the first thing. And then I like to kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then you don't want to roll all the way off, because if you do, you're going to get really thin edges before that middle part is thin enough. So these are tortillas, you want them to be really thin. So I am pushing outward, but I am not going all the way off of the actual tortilla. And then I just take my time, and if I see that I need, like this isn't a circle, so I'm going to work on this side of it. And just work my way around. Pick it up off the board if I need to and move it around. Make sure I have plenty of space all around to work. And there we go. So it's not a perfect circle, but it works really well for a burrito. My timer for my yogurt went off, so I am going to completely unplug it and turn it off. I unplug it because, there we go. I unplug it because in case somebody thinks, oh, she accidentally turned it off, and then turns it back on, or if I forget to turn it off, unplugging it just make sure that it's not an issue. So from here, I am going to add about a half a cup of sugar and a good tablespoon of vanilla extract. And then I'm going to stir this up, and I'm going to put the lid on it and set it back aside for another 2.5 hours. So that is all I have to do for right now, and then wait another 2.5 hours.
So once I get my tortillas rolled out, then I throw them on my flat griddle like this, and you just cook them like on medium low until you start to see bubbles form, and then you are just going to flip it, and that's going to puff up. Oh, it's so pretty. And once it puffs up, that's it, you're done. Okay, my Instant Pot is done. So in about the same amount of time that it took to, my dog is yapping, that it took for me to make the tortillas, the Instant Pot is finished. So I let it run for the full 30 minutes and then left it to do a natural release on its own. So we're going to open it up. Oh, so pretty. So I'm actually just going to take, there's still a little liquid in there, but that's okay, because as I'm mashing up the beans a little bit, it's going to kind of thicken up as it cools. I would not use an immersion blender on this because it has the meat in it. So normally I would use an immersion blender like if I were going to turn this into refried beans, but because it has the meat in it, I don't want to do that. So this is ready to go right now. So we're actually going to have some of this for dinner, and then whatever we have left over, we will make into burritos and wrap in foil and stick them in the freezer, and then just throw them in the oven to cook for about 20 minutes the rest of the week. So we will have probably dinner tonight and then one meal for lunches this week. Okay, we have eaten dinner and we put everything away. I am on my last thing before I go to bed, and that is finishing what I need to do with my yogurt. So I set a timer for 2 hours and 45 minutes after I turned it off and unplugged it, added the sugar and the vanilla. And now what I'm going to do is add just one of these like containers as my yogurt starter. Now if you have yogurt that you have made already, you can use that as a yogurt starter. I never do, because homemade yogurt is just going to be naturally thinner, but it will be thinner if you use your homemade yogurt as a starter. It'll be thinner and thinner and thinner each time you make it. So because of that, I try to find these on sale when I can, but they're usually about $1. So for about $1 plus the cost of about a half a gallon of milk, whatever that is at the time, we get a half a gallon of yogurt. So it feels like a really good win for me. So I am literally just going to open this up and just whisk it in. And from there, I just put my lid back on it. And from here, there are a couple of options that you have. I have seen people take the crock part out of their crock pot and stick it in the oven, just with the oven light on. I have never tried that because this works really well for me. So I am just going to take 2 towels, and the first one I'm going to put under it, and I'm going to wrap over the top. So I folded the towel in half lengthwise, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And this one is going to get wrapped all the way around, back up against the wall, so that it holds the towels on. And this is going to keep it insulated, and it's going to keep it at the temperature that I need it to stay at all night long, so that the yogurt will culture, and the cultures that I put in from the little container of yogurt are going to culture the rest of the milk. And then in the morning, we will have about a half a gallon of yogurt that I will put into
the refrigerator, and we'll be able to eat on it all week for breakfast.